This right here is the Sigma 150-600, and this is the Sigma 500mm f5.6. And today we're going to be trying to answer the question, is this lens really worth almost twice the price of the 150-600? And I'd like to start by saying a quick thank you to Sigma UK for loaning me the use of this lens, but I don't get to see this video before you guys, so all the thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are my own. Now both of these lenses are incredibly popular, and they definitely generated a lot of hype when they were first released. And they are definitely both fantastic tools. But there's a few key differences between each one of these lenses, which very much changes who I'd recommend each one of these lenses for. So in this video, I want to go over the key differences between these two lenses, as well as showing you loads of photos so that you can make the best decision. Now, one of the key distinguishing factors between the lenses is their weight. The Sigma 500mm weighs in at a very light 1.37 kilos, which is more comparable to a 70-200 lens. Whereas the Sigma 150-600 is more akin to what I would expect from a telephoto lens, weighing at 2.1 kilos. Now this difference in weight is really significant when it comes to wildlife photography. I often associate wildlife photography with having to carry around lots of big heavy gear, whereas this just wasn't the case with the Sigma 500 f5.6. In fact, it was quite a weird feeling, as it almost felt easy to do the wildlife photography, almost as if with wildlife photography you should be suffering with the weight. As you'd also expect with this difference in weight, the Sigma 500mm is also a lot more compact than the 150-600. In fact, when both lenses are at their shortest, the Sigma 500mm is almost smaller than the 150-600. Even when there's a camera body attached. There's only really a couple of centimeters difference between the two with a camera attached on the 500mm. And this difference in the overall size and weight is actually a subject that I want to return to a little bit later in the video. But for now I want to talk about the difference in the focal length between these two lenses. Obviously there's two key talking points we want to talk about here. The first of which is the difference between 500mm and 600mm. At the end of the day, 600mm is slightly longer than 500mm. However, in the field I didn't notice too much of a difference. In fact, I would say that the Sigma 500mm is so sharp that I'd be quite happy cropping in the difference between 500 and 600mm. Now the other thing to talk about here with the 150-600 is obviously you have the entire zoom range to work with. This is useful not only in composing our images, but I also find that it's really useful if I'm struggling at any point to find my subject, just to zoom out, allowing me to find that subject and then zooming back in to change my composition. Whereas if you're using the 500mm lens, unless you're very practiced with the lens, it can be quite difficult to find your subject, especially if you're just starting out in photography and you're trying to track a very erratic subject, such as the squirrels that I photographed in the Yorkshire Dales. And it's for this reason that if you're just starting out in photography, I would highly recommend that you start off with a zoom lens like the Sigma 150-600 over a telephoto prime. But if you're a little bit more advanced in photography, then there are some other key differences between these two lenses which are more likely to be the deciding factor in which one that you choose. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about a quick couple of limitations that both of these lenses have. The first of which, as they're both third-party lenses, is imposed by Sony themselves. And this is that if you're trying to shoot with a high frame rate camera, such as the Sony A1, which is usually capable of shooting at 30 frames a second with native lenses, on both of these lenses, you're going to be limited to 15 frames a second. Me personally, I shoot with the A7 III, which has a maximum frames per second of 15 frames per second, so I don't see this as an issue. I'm not worried about it at all. But if you do shoot with any of these higher end bodies, then it's something that you should probably be aware of. The other restriction that Sony has placed on these two lenses is that you're not able to use teleconverters. Now this teleconverter issue is easier to work around than the frames per second issue. For example, if you were lucky enough to have an APS-C body, then you could switch to that and get the effective crop factor from that body, or you could simply just crop more in post and then upscale your final image. There are also a number of similarities between these two lenses. One really key one when it comes to wildlife photography is that both of these lenses have optical image stabilisation. And this optical stabilisation is really useful if you're trying to shoot wildlife in low light conditions where you're really going to have to reduce those shutter speeds. Now if we're looking at the specs on paper, then technically the 150-600 has slightly better image stabilisation, having 6.5 stops at the wide end and 5.5 stops at the telephoto end. This is in comparison to the 500mm, which only has 5 stops of stabilisation. But personally in the field, when I'm using both of these lenses for an extended period of time, as you probably would do if you're doing wildlife photography and sitting in a hide for absolutely hours, then the additional size and weight of the 600mm held over quite a long period of time will often lead me to fatigue and ultimately shake a little bit more than I probably would do with the 500mm, which is an absolute breeze to hold. But maybe that's just my personal opinion, given that my hands are about as shaky as a 65-year-old on loads of Red Bull. Now, one key difference that I'd like to point out between these two lenses is the minimum focus distance. Now, this is an interesting thing to talk about when we're talking about wildlife photography, as we often think of wildlife photography as trying to photograph things that are very far away, such as birds in flight. But often when I'm out and about walking with my lens, I might bump into an interesting subject that I might want to photograph. So for example, just down here, I don't know if you can see it on this tree, but you've got a couple of beautiful little fungi. The bottom one's maybe grown out a little bit weird, but the top one looks rather cool, especially standing out against the green of this tree. Now, unfortunately, with this lens, I can't get close enough with that. So if I was out on a walk, like I am today, and I'd brought along with me the Sigma 500mm, this is as close as I would be able to get. Out there, which frankly feels a little bit like overkill. Whereas if I switch to the Sigma 150-600 and switch it into manual mode and set it to 180mm, I can get far closer. Cool. And this difference in minimum focus distance is a little bit of a shame, as I think that otherwise the Sigma 500mm would be a really fantastic lens if you enjoy hiking. However, I don't think the difference in the minimum focus is ultimately going to be a deal breaker for many people. And again, there's lots of workarounds you could potentially do, as I think a lot of these photographs of just interesting subjects like this are just things that you could potentially do with your phone, which is a really weird thing to talk about in a camera lens review. Just use your phone. So let's bring it back to some more traditional camera lens review stats, one of which would be autofocus speed. Now, I've used the Sigma 150-600 for the past 2 years, and I've never really had too much of a problem keeping up with fast subjects such as birds in flight. I might miss the occasional shot, but shooting at 10 frames per second, I can often find a frame that I'm more than happy with. However, the autofocus on the Sigma 500mm is genuinely blisteringly quick, and I was really impressed with the difference between the two lenses. This difference, coupled with the difference in the sharpness between these lenses, ultimately meant I came away with more keepers whenever I took the 500mm out. And as such, if you have a very high resolution camera such as the Sony A7R series, and you wanted the absolute best in image quality, then I'd be steering you towards this Sigma 500mm f5.6. Now, the final thing to talk about with primes versus zooms would usually be the aperture, especially if we're talking about wildlife telephoto lenses. Now, a lot of the big wildlife telephoto prime lenses are f4 lenses. However, the unique thing obviously with this lens is it's a lot smaller and a lot more compact, but that does ultimately mean it's a little bit darker, coming in at just f5.6. This ultimately is about a third of a stop less than the 600mm f6.3, which does mean that you're letting in a little bit more light than the 600mm lens, but I wouldn't say that it's such a massive difference between these two lenses that ultimately it should be the deciding factor between which one you choose. For me personally, the big differences that I've tried to show in this video are the overall differences in usability, being that it's far easier to carry around and store the 500mm, but it's far easier to use the 150-600, given it's got that versatility of the zoom, and then the overall performance, given that the 500mm is just that bit sharper and a little bit faster than the 150-600. Which ultimately means if you're looking for the absolute best in image quality, then I would steer you towards that 500mm f5.6. Whereas if, like me, you're looking for something a little bit more affordable and ultimately incredibly versatile when it comes to wildlife photography, then I'll steer you towards that Sigma 150-600. Now, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about either of these lenses, please let me know down in the comments down below. And finally, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.